Hello everyone, it is story time again. I'm going to read Curious George Plants a Tree by Margaret and H.A. Rays. Here we go. Curious George Plants a Tree. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today was a good day to be curious. The man with the yellow hat was taking George to the Science Museum. The museum was one of George's favorite places. There was always something new to see and interesting to learn. I love going to the museum. Do you boys and girls like going to the museum? Often there was a special exhibit. George wanted to know what it was today, but first he had to make his favorite museum stops: the rocket room, the mirror maze, and the butterfly space. How cool! Finally, George and his friend made it to the special exhibits. The sign read, "How you can take care of our planet." George learned many things: how all people, animals, plants, air, and water on the planet make up the environment, how trees help keep the air clean, and how people can help protect the environment from pollution and too much trash. That's why, boys and girls, it's so important to recycle, to reuse items, and to not waste things, so reduce. Very, very important things to know. George had a great time and didn't get into any of his usual mischief. As he and his friends were leaving, they bumped into the museum director. Dr. Lee looked happy to see him. "How is my best monkey visitor?" Dr. Lee asked George. "I am so glad I ran into you. I want to tell you that we're having a Green Day rally tomorrow at the park." George was curious. Whatever a rally was, he was sure that the park was a good place to be. "We're going to plant a truckload of trees and collect used paper for recycling," Dr. Lee explained. "We didn't have much time to advertise, but we need lots of volunteers. How would you like to help out?" There was nothing that George liked better than to help. "What a great idea," the man agreed. "We'll be there." It's nice to be helpers. Let's find out how George helps out. That night, George was ready to do his part for the recycling drive. He gathered every newspaper in the house. He stacked old mail on top of the papers. He piled empty cardboard boxes and food cartons on top of that. What a big heap! What more could he add, he thought. George scratched his head. Then he took several books off his bedroom shelf. Just as George was about to add them to his recycling pile, someone lifted the books out of his hands. "Not so fast, George," the man said. "These books are made of paper, all right, but you could read and enjoy them many more times, and when you're done, you can donate them to other kids or your library. Reusing is just as important as recycling." He is absolutely right. It's nice to give things away when you don't need them anymore. The next morning, George and his friends set out for the park with their wagon of neatly stacked paper. Suddenly, the man stopped and said, "I forgot my gardening gloves. Go on without me, George. I'll be there soon." As George walked down the street, he spotted several newspapers lying about on his neighbor's front steps. George had an idea. He had lots of room in his wagon. He could recycle all of those newspapers. Oh, do you think that's going to be helpful? I wonder. Let's find out. Well, and the newspapers were not the only thing he could recycle. He noticed a stack of paper cups sitting on the table under a tree. Into the wagon they went. And he did a pile of magazines. From here, oh no. And a heap of papers someone left on the sidewalk. Boys and girls, were those things that were ready to be recycled? Oh, I don't think so. Somebody was setting up a lemonade stand here. And here is the newspaper stand where they sell newspapers. So these newspapers are still new. They haven't been used yet. And here someone was moving from their office, and here's are all the important files. And he thought they were for recycling. That silly George. George was happy with his great load. At the park, he found Dr. Lee already hard at work. "Good morning, George," Dr. Lee said. "I am so glad you came and brought all your friends. We need lots of help to get the job done." George turned around. He was surprised to see so many faces, but they did not look very helpful. They looked angry. See all those people chasing George. Why do you think they're angry? Ah. The man with the yellow hat arrived just in time. He explained to the neighbors that George was gathering paper for a good cause. They were no longer mad. They even stayed to help plant the trees. Well, that's nice, because George was trying to be helpful. He didn't realize that those items still belonged to someone else. They weren't ready to be recycled. Everybody helped. "George, you saved our green day," Dr. Lee said. "With gratitude, the trees will provide fresher air, and each summer we'll have more shade, which means we'll use less water to keep the grass green. Thank you." Being a monkey, George had known all along how important trees really were. Because George loves to climb trees. Look at him up there. And that is the end of the story, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that. Very important things to learn about here, taking care of our earth. And there will be more stories to come, so we will see you another day. I miss you. Bye.